Thanks for joining the Anthony Atiase Experience. My name is Anthony Atiase. I'm the host of this podcast. I'm super excited. This guest I have known this brother for a while, and I know there's a lot of jewels and great information he's going to share. I'm here with Dr. Kendall Taylor. He's the CEO of Salute First, which is an organization that impacts men from all backgrounds through positive experiences and challenging faulty perspectives. He's a recognized entrepreneur on a national level, and he's also the co-owner of Rock Soul Entertainment with his wife Fantasia Taylor. And they have 4 kids here in the Charlotte area, and we're just ready to have these jewels that he's been holding on to that he's going to share with us. Dr. Taylor, man, thanks for coming.
Hey, it's an honor to be here, Anthony. Like you said, we got equity with each other. We go way back before the hype and the flair. And it's good to tap in with a brother who knew me beforehand. So yeah. I'm honored to come, and I pray add value to your platform, brother.
Well, thank you so much. As always, I start with the first question. What was your upbringing like? What was the young Dr. Taylor? What was your upbringing like?
Like millions of other young brothers, single family home. My father left my mother before I turned 1 year old. A lot of infidelity and abuse. My mother remarried. That's how I got my brother, but that relationship didn't work, and it was very tough. Me and my mother were talking earlier today, and she worked hard enough just to barely keep us off welfare, right? And the interesting component about that, Anthony, is I got treated differently from the soldiers on the other side of town because we appeared to have more, but we actually had less, right? And so you deal with this dichotomy of your introduction into competition and ego and violence, and it's a tough mountain to climb for a young man who doesn't have a father. But again, it's millions of us out there. So we had hard times, but we had a lot of laughter. We didn't necessarily know what we were missing. We didn't necessarily complain about it. But my mom did a phenomenal job. In a department where she shouldn't have had to carry that weight by herself. But again, it's millions of brothers out there who came up the way I did and even harder.
Mm-hmm. What do you think from a perspective of a male not having like a male influence in their life? How does it affect individuals or young men growing up?
I think it's a two-edged sword. And on one edge, you have an identity crisis. Because you're supposed to look at your father and mirror how he walks and how he talks and, how he conducts himself, but also how he handles success and failures. How does he handle a disagreement with a woman? How does he handle when the bills are not due? So when you don't have that, you don't have a blueprint of how to approach life. And the first thing we start doing is reaching out in society for something to mirror after. And unfortunately, it's usually the dope boy on the corner, or it's usually an athlete or somebody who embodies or emulates the very things that we lack. So if we're in poverty, we're going to idolize somebody who's wealthy. If we're weak and we're insecure and we don't activate our voice, we're going to find somebody who's unapologetic and very brash, attractive, right? And it's not necessarily healthy. And then on the other edge of that sword that we teach about is I only had my mother's perspective. And so I got too much feminine energy and perspective inside of this male vehicle, and it's like putting regular gas on a foreign car. It'll start up, but you won't make it to your destination. And over time, I've had to unpack a lot of that stuff, man, because I had too much feminine energy, too emotional, too sensitive, too just on edge and ready to go. And I think that's what we're seeing out here. We see a lot of young boys who don't have something to mirror, who were raised by a single mother, adopting too much of that energy. They all coming together, congregating, trying to self-medicate. And now you see the byproduct of what that really looks like, man. But it's just a whole world full of hurt boys who needed a father's love.
Wow. And when you were in your teens, tell us about when you turned 15 and becoming a father, right? Tell us about that.
Let's be honest, man. Nobody wanted to be that kid at school. In middle school, high school, that's got a kid, you end up becoming ostracized, right? It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing. And I had no clue what to do. I'm 15 years old in desperate need of my father, and now I am a father. And so my first years of being a father, man, I jacked it completely up because I was trying to be more of his homeboy and his friend because I'm 15. I'm still trying to live my life. I'm just not experimenting with drugs and all these other things. I'm not trying to slow down. And so I showed my son things that I ended up having to pay for later on. I showed my son things and exposed him to things that he shouldn't have been exposed to. But that, I think I now know that was a part of breaking that generational curse where my father abandoned me and my brothers, and I had to fight through that misunderstanding, that confusion, that fear in order to make sure that my son never experienced what I experienced. So it wasn't perfect fatherhood, but it was a part of that breaking the cycle process.
Oh, wow. I can't even imagine that. I mean, at 15 and
15.
taking on that responsibility. How did your mom think about, what happened and what you were going through?
I remember the day I had to tell her, man, and that was a tough moment, man, because my mom, and you met my mother, man. She had and still has a lot of hope in me, and so as any parent whose daughter comes in pregnant or son, say, you concerned that their life is over, right? That the clear path that they had to success and achievement has now been detoured. She gave me the ones and twos. She gave me the good grilling and all of that stuff. But my mom was very quick with, okay, well, let's start talking about solutions. Let's start talking about what this is going to really look like. And I really carried that through my life, right? And so, like at Salute First, we call it the 50-10 rule. The 10-50 rule. Out of every hour, you get 10 minutes to complain. You could have 10 minutes to cry about it. You could have 10 minutes to blame somebody else and make excuses, whatever. But the other 50 minutes need to be given towards bringing a solution and putting a contingency in place. But we got a society of men who are 50-10, and they spend all day complaining, all day deflecting, and not putting enough energy and effort to the solution. So that's a situation where it was a unfortunate event, right? But it produced something so beautiful in my son, in my character, and the lesson that I was able to extract from it. So, yeah, Mom Luke's a tough cookie, man.
So you just mentioned the number of men out there who are 50-10. Obviously, going through that process and transition, we could say that you were at that 50-10. When did it flip? When did it flip?
All day. Blaming everybody and their mama. Blaming my father for not being there, blaming my mom for my father not being there, like just immature, immature. And again, that's what a father's supposed to represent. He's supposed to be there to establish boundaries, perimeters, non-negotiables, mandates. But when you don't have any of that, man, you're wide open, exposed, and vulnerable to any kind of attack that the enemy wants to display on your life. And as we see, Satan coming after these kids like never before. And that's why it's paramount that they be protected and covered, man, because we don't know what we don't know. Exactly. So I was definitely 50-10, me and my whole crew. So when you got a whole crew that's traumatized, no father, no sense of direction, no accountability, blaming everybody else, and then you have clusters of those, what do you think is going to happen? What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting you mentioned that. People always talk about the crew and people in your circle and who you have around you. It's almost like you become a part of that from an influence perspective. So when did it flip? When did you become 10-50?
Sitting in the jail cell in Jackson County, Georgia. Wow. When you hold on, I want to make sure we get it real quiet here. My apologies, my baby girl, man. When you are dealing with trauma and the way it changes your physiological makeup, and especially like me and my crew, when you in the game and you selling drugs and you making a lot of money really fast, right? Can't nobody tell you nothing. Can't nobody explain nothing to you. You're not sober. You're not clear-minded. You're not thinking long-term. You're just rebellious with revenue. But I found myself facing a very serious charge where I had to sit down because I had created this habit of getting arrested, locked up, and bailing out. But by being pulled out of state, I couldn't bail out. I had to sit down. And when I had to sit down, I wouldn't, my drugs weren't accessible, my pills, my weed, my liquor. So I got sober. And I began to really see my life and my conditions. And I remember I was sitting in the cell one day, and Georgia's always overcrowded. And I'm looking around this cell, bro, Anthony, and I'm looking at all the behavior. I'm looking at the mindset. I'm looking at the vernacular. I'm like, yo, I'm not better than any man in here, but I'm smarter than any of these cats in here. I do not belong in here. So I got to choose another path. And so in 2007, the fall of 2007, I made a promise to the Most High. I wasn't selling drugs no more. I wasn't going to womanize no more. I wasn't going to be violent anymore. And that began the journey of accountability. That began the journey. Now, the process of getting to 1050, that was something completely different. That took time. That took experiences. That took exposure. That took mistakes. That took me having some mistakes because, I was reading something the other day. They say, well, pain is the greatest instructor. Pain speaks to you and tells you that this is not the right way, this is not the right course. And so 80% of the lessons I learned in life came through pain and suffering to get to a 1050 perspective. But it's not something we all gravitate to. We all try to cut corners.
Yeah.
We all, we tend to choose pleasure over purpose, but you have to get out of that, when you become a man.
Yeah. And you talked about, you made that decision, of course, accountability. It took a lot of discipline. Talk to me about those steps and, where you, at the core, you were entrepreneur, but you were a different kind of entrepreneur when you were 50-10. And talk to me about, like, how hard is it to come out of where you were and take those steps to becoming, that entrepreneur on a different side?
It's not impossible, but it is incredibly hard. Because again, here comes another identity crisis. So you live your life timid, insecure, maybe a pushover. Every dude want to say he never been a pushover. He been hard since the cradle, right? But I was very insecure, man. I was very unsure of who I was. And so when you fight to a place to get into a position of power and reputation and respect, you covet that. And so here I am realizing that very thing that I coveted, that I strove for, is destroying me and my family, and I have to let it go. Well, who am I if I'm not a dope boy? Who am I if I'm not feared? Who am I if I don't have money and resources that I thought at that time moved people to respect me? And so the only place that I could start was the best place to start, and that was in the scriptures. Like, who does God say that I am? Who am I away from and stripped away from everything worldly? Like, that's where you got to define yourself as a man. It's not about how much revenue I have or the strength of my network or the last deal I closed. Who you are as a man is, if you lose everything, are you still right? And so it's very much possible, but in order to recreate yourself coming from where I came from, these were my mentors. I had to take a piece from this book. I had to take a piece from this strategy. I had to take a piece from this scripture. I took a piece when I saw him make that grave mistake. I'm like, okay, bet. And so for me, it was just creating this collage, because I realized one day that I'm trying to be something I've never seen. I believe and I am trying to become the version of a man that I have never seen and encountered. And so I had to get rid of what my mom expected me to be. I had to get rid of what my son thought I should be. I had to get rid of what the community. I had to determine what type of man do I want to be and be remembered for when I die. And I set out on the course to figure out, how to become that. And I would say that I'm on that path now. I'm on that path, because I can go out here right now tonight, Anthony, and do something, say something that could destroy my marriage, like, it's never over. That's why I say manhood is a journey. It's not a destination. So I'm on the right path now, but it won't be able to be confirmed until I leave this earth. And then you measure the works that I've done, because I can go out, like I said, I can go out here and say something publicly. I can go out here and do something in the dark. I could have a reckless night behind the wheel of my car, and everything is gone, man. So there is no ending to this. This is the journey, and I'm glad to say I'm on the right path.
No, that's a lot. That's a lot of good information. You talked about identity, and a lot of folks walking around who have no idea who they are, so they tie themselves to something, like you said. You know, I've always said, you know, at the foundation, don't tie your happiness to a noun, right? To a person, place, or thing, right? Because guess what? When that thing goes, your happiness goes with it.
Yeah.
You know, and I love what you said about this identity piece, because it's crucial, and there's so many people who are looking for that. um, let's talk about the business that you got into from a logistics perspective. Despite everything that you had gone through, how did you even how did you do it?
God, man, I'm gonna give it to him. I've learned
Mm,
my lesson. That I work hard, man, you have no idea. That
mm,
I make sacrifices and suffer, I can't even describe.
mm,
But there is something about grace and favor that we as men take for granted, man. Picture this. Said I never had a father. So you know I don't know how to work nothing under the hood of a car, right?
mhm,
I can't change no oil. I don't know how many cylinders or pistons or horse. I don't know none of that. I know left, right, up, down. So my mother was working, doing some consulting for a gentleman at the church. I'll keep his name out of this. And
right.
he had a warehouse, and he had like trucking over here. He had product fulfillment over here. And, you know, she basically said, "Well, you give my sons a job. They just got home from jail." Cool. I go into the product fulfillment side. I'm doing the do right. I'm hustling. I'm working. I'm gonna make a very long story short. I got an opportunity to be a backup driver at $10 an hour. I'm 28 years old. I'm used to making a lot of money.
Mhm,
This is humbling, right? But then that's when I realized that God doesn't do interior decorating. God rebuilds. So
mm,
He's not going to take a house that you've created and accent it and put some decorum in there. No, He's going to tear it down and rebuild it.
yeah.
And so I got started, man, sweeping floors, taking out trash, running errands, getting coffee, bro. For $7.25 an hour.
Wow.
So I got a chance to make $10 an hour and become a backup driver. And while I'm in their vans, I'm just looking, I'm watching, I'm listening. And one day I bought a minivan, a 1998 Ford Windstar, and I took the seats out of it. And I told the guy I was working for, if you get a route, I would like that route. Route came available about a month or two later. I took the route, bought another van, put my brother on, bought another van, put my homie on, bought a box truck, put my cousin on. I kept doing that, man, until I looked up one day and I was doing about $500,000. I was doing about $500,000, right? And so the owner called me in one day, Anthony, and he said, "Hey, I need to talk to you about payroll." And I'm like, "God almighty, boy, you about to cut my throat." And I said, "Well, you going to take what I got?" He said, "No." He said, "I'm just impressed with what you've done." He says, "Would you ever consider taking over my company?" I said, "Bet." So he put these benchmarks in place. I did it, yada, yada, yada. And he gave me the keys of control. And that's when I brought in innovation. I started training different. I started networking differently, and started out with what, 900,000. And by the time I got out of the truck, and we was doing like close to 6 million a year, which is decent, you
Oh
know.
my God.
But I was able to hire felons. I was hiring felons left and right and giving them opportunities, giving them a pay rate that nobody else would give them. And that gave me their loyalty. I did what I said I was going to do. They did what they said they was going to do. And we went out here and really changed the game, man. And I got some incredible awards. I got MBE Distinguishment of the Year. I got Leadership Academy Awards, you know, CEO Academy Awards. Like, and that's when I started to regain some confidence of what my identity is outside of the streets, but over here being more pro-social. You know, those experiences helped me kind of erase the board of what I remembered about myself.
Wow. At the moment when you were in the truck and you were like, I'll get another one, right? What was going through your mind? Because you know you're about to start running your own business. Like, what exactly was going through your mind? Was it like failure is not an option? Because that's not an easy transition to make that you made right there in that moment.
I would love to give you something sexy, man, but I just refuse to stay at 725 an hour, man. Like,
Mm,
I wanted more for myself. I was in a place in my life where I had no clothes. I was sleeping on my mom's floor. I had to ask my mom, could I use her car and some money to go get my son? Like, I didn't like that feeling. And so I just ducked off from the world. I ducked off from the world. And Anthony, I set a budget of $12 a day. I ate breakfast, lunch, and dinner for $12 a day. One of my timesheets 1 week had 88 hours on it, man. When I say I went hard, I delivered pharmaceuticals at 4 a.m. I came back, reset. I did office supply, came back, reset. I did the energy route at night, and I transported ambulatory patients on the weekend in 12 hours on, 12 hours out. I went to go get it, man. So by the time my books had beefed up, I didn't even realize it. I was just doing the ones and twos. And the person doing my books one day pulled me to the side and said, do you realize you're doing $500,000 a year? And I was like, nah, I had no clue. And then I sat back and said, maybe I could really do this. Like, can I really come out here and create some impact and make a name for myself? And that's when I started doing more intentional studies and intentional networking and collaborating and all that stuff, when I decided, okay, I'm really going to do this. But I ain't going to lie to you, but I just hit the ground running, hustling. And I looked up and my situation had changed, man. $12 a day, bro. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner, man. I would go to McDonald's. I would get me a McGriddle, and that's like $3. This is back when Kentucky Fried Chicken had the baked chicken. That was my little special thing. I would do that for lunch. That was like around $10, right? And then I would have me, some little change left over to do me a little. I think McDonald's had those 1-for-1s or whatever. Yeah. And I give me some nuggets, and the little chicken sandwich, and another water. And that's how I ate every day, bro. And I did $12 a day for about 6-8 months. $12 a day. So everything that I got, I bought a van, bought insurance, paid my team. Yeah, man. Sacrifice.
So the big word that stands out to me is discipline. When folks are, you can talk to folks coming out of the Army, Marines, whatever, they learn discipline. Where did you get this discipline from?
Where did I get discipline from? Only thing I can tell you, man, is I always knew the right thing to do. I wasn't doing it, but I knew the right thing to do. I knew the golden rule. I knew the like the reciprocity of consequence. I knew handling people with care was important before I even knew about relationship management. I knew that other people's opinions were important and should be considered. I knew these things. Me being able to fully express them in a consistent manner, only suffering pushed me in that place, man. Because I would do the whole go to jail. God, if you get me out of this, I won't do it again. Get out, go back. God, if you don't do it, but I, just like anybody else, man. It's just that I got tired of living beneath my potential, man. I got tired of trying to be something that I wasn't, and I got to a point where I wanted to see what I was capable. Boom, thank you. I'm trying to get to it. My mom came to me one year and she was like, Kendall, what is it going to take for you to take 1 year for yourself? She said, every year you either got a girl, or you running with a crew, or you trying something new. She said, what would it take for you to take 1 year undistracted to focus on personal growth and development? I got out of jail 07, 08. I took that 1 year, 09, I'm making $500,000. Wow. Every man should take that 1 year. Even if you're married, man, you can do it within the confines of a relationship and responsibilities. But what does it take to cut out all the TV, man, the social media, the filth, the distractions, the lust, the temptations, and set your eyes on something relentlessly and see it through to the end? Not enough men are doing that, man. And that's what it did for me, man. 1 year changed my entire life and the lives of others.
That is powerful. So you're going on this journey of growth and doing remarkable things from an entrepreneurial perspective. Let's talk about Salute first. Why did you want to come up with that?
I know how I came up with the name. This is how the organization was formed. I was at Metro back when I had the trucking company, and I kept me a Bible on my desk. And one day I'm eating my little salad and I came across a scripture that said, remember those who are in prison as if you are also in chains. and remember those who are suffering as if you join in, you know, their tribulation and suffering. And I realized, like, yeah, a lot of guys from back in the day are saying, yo, I see you doing your thing. I'm proud of you. And a lot of brothers are saying, yo, how did you make it? But it's not good enough that I made it out if I'm not going back showing other brothers the exact way to do it, right? And so I just started going into the prisons. One of my dearest friends are still incarcerated. And so he was doing this thing called Real Men, Real Talk. And he said, bro, he said, why don't you come one day and share your testimony? He said, a lot of what I talk about is your life. He said, I use your life as a canvas. And I said, boom, I said, okay. So I go there one day and I do my testimony. The response was unreal. So I'm like, okay. So I got called to go back. And the warden there at the time said, hey, if you willing to come and do the keynote, I'll let you talk to your homeboy for like 2 hours without supervision.
Wow.
So the beginning for me was, okay, if I drive down to South Carolina and I just do the ones and twos, I can talk to my brother. So he was my motivation. But what happened was another prison called, then another prison called. Then these wardens started talking. Then the directors of prisons reached out to me. Then Prison Fellowship reached out. And then I sat back almost like I did in Metro and said, hold on. We need to package and formalize what we're doing because we're making impact. And so COVID hit. Me and my wife weren't working. Everything had slowed down. She was pregnant. I did some real deep soul searching. And I said, God, what did you create me for? I've made money doing a variety of different things, but none of it's making me happy. None of it's making me feel fulfilled. Like something's missing. And he showed me Salute First, man, and exactly what I'm supposed to do and what we're supposed to represent and the places we're supposed to go. And so I cracked my laptop open. I've never been a part of a program. I've never taken a program. I did not know what I was doing, but I knew what would connect with the brothers from where I came from. And that's how I designed it. That's why it's not a reentry program. It's not just for at-risk kids. This is for any man who's looking for keys to unlock some of the miseducation and the mental conditioning and the social engineering that's taking place, so we can take back our mind, our understanding, and rise to another level of power, because I'm realizing money's not going to do it, man. It takes more than money to have power. Money can create influence, but it's not the greatest source of power, man. And I was like, okay, well, I need to really see what we really got here. And so I got the prison who I was going into agreed to let me run a pilot. And then there's a set of high schools out in Louisiana in St. James Parish where we had some relationship with that let me run a pilot. And the feedback, the data was unreal. And since that point in time, man, we've just been running, man, on contract after contract. I mean, from schools to prisons to, you know, community agencies to you name it, man. Salute First is definitely making waves. We're definitely building hope. We're definitely building leaders, and we definitely are here to stay. That I can assure you.
No, that's great. Have you, you know, with Salute First, has there been anybody that's kind of been through the program or someone that you've connected with that's come back to you? And I know there's a lot, but can you think of anybody that came back and was like, hey, because of what you said or what you did, this happened in my life. I made these changes.
I'll give you two examples that might be more closely related because we just finished our pilots maybe a month or two ago, right? So with one of our youth, right? It's a young guy named Travis, man. He was a shining star, acing all his tests, present for every single lesson. And this course is not easy, man. It's definitely not easy. But right now, his parents are going through a divorce. And the counselor at the school came to him and said, you know, how are you processing this? If you need somebody to talk to, I'm here. And he said, no. He said, I understand what's going on. He said, I understand what's taking place. He said, I understand how I feel. He said, Salute First taught me to process my emotions, to be prepared to respond and not react. See, for me, that's the bread and butter, because you can pass your quiz and your test, but when life presents you a trauma where you still remember what you learned, And that young boy is like 16 years old, right? And so on the flip side with the men, one of the greatest, though I have many testimonies we have, is there was a brother by the name of Gene Terrio. Gene Terrio was scheduled to go to a level 1 prison. Level 1 is the basic, no barbed wire. You can wash your own clothes. You're closer to your family. Commissary's cheaper. You about to go home. He refused to go. He said, I talked to the mother of my children. I've spoken to my mother. And they have seen such a dramatic change in my behavior that we all agree I'm not going anywhere until I finish this program, because I can't get the program where I'm going. That to me spoke volumes, because as I said earlier, it's rare when you see a man choose purpose over pleasure. Pleasure was waiting on him, but he denied the pleasure in order to continue on the journey of sacrifice, knowing I'll get the pleasure when I get there. That to me. And in our graduating class, man, I'm having a moment. Our graduating class, we had Bloods, Crips, Gangster Disciples, and the Aryan Brotherhood in the same room, getting along, hugging each other, celebrating each other, doing our breakthrough exercises, doing our class critical thinking exercises. It can work, man. No color mattered that day. No gang stuff mattered that day. All it was about was, how do we become better men? So those are like two of my most favorite stories that I use. And then we even, we have a phase 1 version for the elementary schools. And Dr. Johnson at 6th Ward Elementary came back after only 90 days and said, we have experienced a 54% decline in behavioral infractions and occurrences. Say less. Say less.
And so this is affecting not only grown men, but just across the board, right?
Has to be, man, because let's open our eyes, man. We looking at a lot, but we don't see nothing. I was sitting with the team one day, right, and the focus was reentry, which is somebody who's already been incarcerated. We're trying to keep them from coming back, right? Okay, I got it. But that's the back door. How do we deal with the front door? All right? And we started talking about prevention. And I said to my team, I said, yo, we can't wait till they get on the corner, because once they start tasting girls 24/7, money, no responsibility, they're gone for a season. I said, but while they're still in school, they're accountable and they're accounted for. I said, if we can find a way to infuse our curriculum inside of a school setting, that's how you stop and cut off the pipeline. You stop them from going in the first place. And so our prevention approach is that we service boys from the 6th grade all the way to the 11th grade in the academic arena. And then our 12th graders, they stay positions as leader role models, where sometimes they teach, they help manage the flow, because once you come through the training, we got to give you an opportunity to have responsibility. We got to give you an opportunity to actually lead if we say we're building leaders. And so that's our approach to it, man. So that's what pushed us to move into the schools. And then, Dr. Johnson just really begging and pleading, saying, hey, I need this for my 6th graders. And I'm like, well, why don't they wait till 7th grade? And she started sharing with me what these 6th graders are doing, talking about, experiencing. And I said, you're right, because Sam ain't waiting until they get to high school. He's going to put whatever agenda, whatever message, whatever, content he wants as early as possible. So we as parents, leaders, school teachers, we got to start dealing with stuff much earlier than what we used to. So instead of waiting until they get to high school to talk about manhood, how about we talk about it right now?
Right now. Especially like you said, even in middle school. When you look back, I mean, you're obviously a well-rounded, successful individual. You don't have to go back into the community, and that's what folks would say, and do what you're doing. Why are you doing it? Because you honestly, you really don't. But because people have choices, and there are people out there who have living their great lives. They came from the bottom, went to the top, and they're just living their life. But why are you doing what you're doing?
I don't think I had a choice, man. I don't think I had a choice. I think we have a responsibility as men. Now, on paper, I can get away with any excuse any man will use. Never knew my father, had my son at 15, got shot twice when I was 16. Everybody abandoned me, yada, 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 yada. But at the end of the day, man, I had to do this because if I sit in this house, right, with my wife and we just drive our foreign cars and we just go shopping and we just chill out, I realize, man, when we get to heaven, man, God ain't gonna ask us how many albums we sold. He ain't gonna ask us how many cars we drove, man, how many flights we took. He's gonna say, I gave both of y'all an anointing. I gave both of y'all a voice. I'm looking around and I'm trying to see what I got as a return on my investment. I'm not gonna get caught up, bro. One thing I love about me and my wife's relationship is we have lost everything together. Everything. But we still had everything. Oh, wow. We don't get caught up in ranking. We don't get caught up in trying to be number one. We don't get caught up in none of that. What we aim to do, bro, is to represent God at the highest level that he will elevate us to combat what the enemy is doing, period. You're not gonna see my wife out there shaking her tail, talking about come do this, drop, right? Because she's representing something. I'm representing something as well. I think that I have a responsibility if I have a platform. If I've been given grace and mercy because I deserved to be dead, I deserve to be in prison for the rest of my life. If I'm given that extension of grace and favor, then I have a duty to help compel men to find being a godly man, a loyal husband, and a dedicated father more attractive again. That's my main mission through this whole journey that I'm doing, bro, is to make being a God-fearing man, a man of character, attractive again, because it looks like only unrighteousness is winning. Yeah. No, we want to show you that you can love God, that you can fast and pray and remember the fatherless, the orphan, and the widow, and still have success and wealth. We want to show people that, yeah, I can rock Gucci and I get every pair of J's that comes out, but it ain't gonna compromise my character. Yeah, I had to, dog. I had to. There was no way, man. I got a homeboy come home next year. He's been locked up since 1997. We hustled on the same block. He would have done 30-something years, and I'm out here. What am I gonna do with my freedom? Just sit on the beach all day? No, it ain't. I'm not cool with being in my car and driving past and seeing people don't have no food to eat. I'm not okay, man, having multiple bedrooms in my house, but you got kids out here getting snatched up in sex slave trade. I'm not cool with that. So no, it'll never be okay. And the more money I get, the more people I want to empower. The more money we generate, that's the more businesses we need to create. You know what I'm saying? So no, I didn't have a choice, man. I didn't have a choice. Wow. I didn't have a choice. Somebody else might, but I didn't have no choice, man.
I love that. I love that. When you look forward, I mean, with the accomplishments and like you said, the grace that you've been given and recognizing that grace. Recognizing that grace. Yeah. Dr. Kendall Taylor, what's next? What's next for you?
More of the same. I'm looking at something different, Anthony. Like, man, we so caught up on the playoffs. We so caught up on gender specific agendas. We so caught up on all this stuff, but we're not paying attention, man. And so the conversations I'm having and the discussions that are taking place behind the curtain are about this digital gap that's taking place. So we having fun with AI and ChatGPT, and we having fun with all this technology, man, but we're not really paying attention to what this means. So civil rights hits 1964. We get a couple little liberties, right? We get a couple little options, right? Work hard, build community, start businesses, empower our women, yada, 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 yada. But in 25 years, man, the digital gap is going to be so wide that 80% of the jobs in this country, 80% of the jobs in this country, the Black and brown community will not be qualified to access. So in 2008, we saw what 10, 11% unemployment looked like. Can you imagine 80? So what's next for me, man, is to continue to build this platform and expand my network and figure out how we can implement technological training, coding, IT, cybersecurity, how we can get more Black and brown people in position to get that training, even from a 2-gen standpoint, where we train the child and the parent so that we can be in position, because a lot of this stuff that we hold sacred and we've hung our hat on, it's not going to be here.
Yeah.
So that's what's next for me, man, is informing, empowering, and connecting so that we can still enjoy where we are right now in the years to come. Because people are not paying attention, man. They're not paying attention.
Yeah.
80%.
80%.
We can't even imagine what that looks like.
Yeah.
To have 80% of the jobs shift to a technological base, and we aren't qualified for none of them. That sounds like slavery to me. Mm. And we sitting back chilling, throwing money in the club, man, being reckless with our spending, hating on each other instead of collaborating, binging on Netflix instead of studying. And we're going to find ourselves right back before 1964.
Man, it's amazing you said that, because I think about the excitement over Chat GPT and, like you said, AI. Oh, this thing is great. I can do this, I do that. But like you said, the focus is on areas that don't benefit us at all.
No, because most Black and brown people, it's the entry-level jobs. Yeah. It's the cashier stand. It's the janitorial. It's the cleaning lady. It's the working on the assembly line. They're gonna automate it. Boom. If you give me 3 minutes, right? We used to have this saying back in the day, Anthony, in the streets, right? We used to say a jack boy can only be a jack boy, right? Look out for them jack boys. What we realized back then, man, was that jack boys don't know how to hustle. Mm-hmm. They only know how to rob. Mm. See, a hustler can say, I can move this, I can move that, I can move it over here, over there, in the morning, in the evening. A hustler's gonna hustle. But a jack boy is only gonna be a jack boy. Mm. When your money runs out, you can't produce, so you gotta find somebody else to rob. The United States is a jack boy. The United States was a superpower because it was built on free labor and free innovation. So here comes the BRICS exit. We don't respect your dollar no more. We don't respect you at all, actually, right? How is the U.S. going to compete? A jack boy only knows how to be a jack boy. The country was built on free labor and free IP. I'm looking at AI. I'm looking at robotics. That's a lot of IP that we're giving to the system, because every time we ask it something, we don't realize we're answering something for it as well, right? Mm-hmm. And you look at all this robotics taking place from the police to the police department, to the military, to your neighborhood corner store. Because the only way the United States is going to be able to compete is doing what they know: free labor. So I'm looking at this thing and I'm getting very, very concerned, and everybody else is creating these logos and asking the AI these questions and this is that to the third. It's way more alarming than I think we realize. And that's just my personal opinion, my personal perspective. But again, a jack boy only knows how to be a jack boy. And I'm watching this country try to fight its way back to getting free labor because that's all it knows. Mm.
Wow. Like I said, it's so many gems and information that you have provided over this time. To wrap it up, what would you say to, a man out there who didn't grow up with a dad, who went through challenges, and he has a record and can't even apply for a job, or feels like even when he wants to serve in some churches, he can't do it because of that record, and like it feels like kind of giving up or going back. What would you say to someone who's going through something like that?
Being a felon is tough, man. I got my first felony at 16, and I have a total of 3 felonies. It's very tough. Man, what would I say to them? I know that feeling. I know that feeling of applying for a job and them seeing your character and your personality and your charisma, and then you take your tests or whatever the case may be, and you ace it, and they tell you what your orientation start day is, and the night before you get a phone call. again and again and again. Damn. I can only tell them what worked for me, man. You gotta surrender to God. Men, we don't surrender easily, man. We very proud, very stubborn, but you gotta surrender to God or he can't help you. You have to realize that this is outside the scope of my understanding. I am at the edge of my limitations. I am at the edge of my patience. Trust God, man, but at the same time, man, start thinking outside the box. And if nothing else, man, do like I did, man. Like you think I wanted to take $7.25 an hour? No, I took whatever I could get. But I did a panel with Bishop Jakes one day, and I said this. I said, I always remember some of the biggest opportunities in life are hidden behind small doors. There was a multi-million-dollar opportunity God had positioned for me, but it was hidden behind a door that read $7.25. What if I'd have walked past that? What if I'd have said, man, what am I supposed to do with that? Would I be sitting right here? Would I be doing a podcast talking about that? So I think that, man, when you have a felony, man, you have to be very innovative, very creative, and you got to be a little bit more flexible around opportunities. Get in there and show them who you are. Get in there and build relationship, build value, go in there and learn the business, help somebody else. You know, look at the ecosystem and how you can create something that can streamline or eliminate waste. Like, create value. And then it's different than when I got out of jail. There's so many companies out here who hire felons and give them an opportunity, you know, with federal bonding, like Charlotte Works and all those kind of companies. Just don't give up, man. Don't go back. You know the outcome. You know the outcome if you go back, and you're stronger than that. So I would just encourage each brother, man, to search within to find your resolve, to find your steel, and let it shape you, man, not break you. Let it shape you to who you are, man. We've been through worse, man. When you come up from the streets, you've been through worse, man. You've been through worse.
Create value, and that goes back to understanding your identity and knowing your value to even create value. Wow, this was a great I knew it was going to be great.
Yeah, thank you, man. Just let me pull up.
Yeah, no, absolutely. This was a great conversation. I definitely know you, man. You've got a powerful testimony, and thank God you're using your platform to do what God created you to do. And we definitely appreciate it, and I'm sure we'll connect soon.
Oh, without a doubt, brother. Thank you. Much success, man. Blessings to you and the family, bro.
Thank you so much. Salute to you. Take care.
Salute.